From the very beginning of this connection, you showed up with an open heart. You poured your time, your care, your affection, and your emotional presence into someone who you believed was worthy of all that you had to offer. You didn't hold back. You didn't build walls or play games. You were authentic, vulnerable, and loving in ways that many people struggle to be, because you understood that real connection requires that kind of courage and openness. You gave freely, not expecting perfection in return, but simply hoping for reciprocity. You hoped for someone who would meet you halfway, who would recognize the value of what you were offering and honor it with their own effort and presence. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, a painful pattern began to emerge. The person you were investing in wasn't matching your energy. They weren't showing up with the same level of commitment, the same emotional availability, or the same genuine care. While you were consistently trying to nurture the bond between you, reaching out, communicating openly, and doing everything you could to keep the connection alive and thriving, your person seemed to be somewhere else entirely. They were distracted, distant, and emotionally unavailable in ways that left you feeling confused and hurt. It wasn't that they were overtly cruel or intentionally malicious. It was more subtle than that. It was in the way they failed to respond with warmth when you needed it most. It was in the way they brushed aside your concerns when you tried to communicate your needs and feelings. It was in the way they seemed to take your presence for granted, as if your love was something they could ignore today and pick back up tomorrow whenever it suited them. This imbalance created a heavy weight that you carried in your heart every single day. You began to feel unseen, as though your efforts were invisible. You felt unappreciated, as though nothing you did was ever quite enough to earn their attention or affection. And most painfully, you felt emotionally drained, as though you were pouring from a cup that was never being refilled. The more you gave, the more depleted you became, and yet you kept giving because you believed in the potential of what you two could be together. But there comes a moment in every journey when you must choose yourself. There comes a turning point when you realize that continuing to give your all to someone who isn't reciprocating isn't love at all. It's self-abandonment. And you reached that point. You reached the place where you understood that protecting your own heart, your own peace, and your own well-being wasn't selfish. It was necessary. It was an act of self-respect and self-preservation. So you made a powerful and courageous decision. You chose to shut down your emotions, not out of bitterness or a desire for revenge, but out of a deep recognition that you deserved better. You chose to pull back and protect your heart until this person could come forward with the honesty, vulnerability, and open-heartedness that any real connection requires. You stopped chasing. You stopped overextending yourself. You stopped accepting crumbs when you knew you deserved the whole meal. This decision wasn't easy. It required tremendous strength and courage to step back from someone you deeply cared for, someone you had invested so much of yourself in. But you knew, deep in your soul, that love should never mean losing yourself in the process. Love should never require you to diminish your own light just to make someone else comfortable. Love should never ask you to silence your needs or ignore your own pain just to keep the peace. The moment you decided to redirect your energy inward, everything began to shift. You started focusing on loving yourself more deeply and authentically. You prioritized your own healing, your own growth, and your own journey toward inner balance. You began to rebuild your sense of self-worth from the inside out, recognizing that you are whole and complete exactly as you are, regardless of whether anyone else sees your value. As you focused on self-love and self-care, something miraculous happened. The universe began aligning things in your favor. Opportunities appeared. Doors opened. Synchronicities occurred. You started to feel more grounded, more confident, and more in tune with your higher self than you had felt in a long time. The pain that once consumed you, that once felt like it would never end, slowly transformed into wisdom and strength. You realized that every difficult experience was actually a teacher, showing you lessons you needed to learn about boundaries, self-worth, and the true nature of love. You began to understand that balance is not just about spiritual growth or meditation or mantras. Balance is about achieving harmony in every aspect of your life, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. When one area is out of alignment, everything else suffers. But when you bring yourself into balance, when you heal your heart and calm your mind and honor your body and nurture your spirit, everything starts to flow with greater ease and grace. You discovered something profound that many people spend their entire lives never understanding. You realized that everything is interconnected. When your heart heals, your body feels lighter. When your mind finds peace, your spirit begins to shine again. When you honor yourself, the entire world responds differently to you. This is the great truth of existence, that the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. This transformation didn't go unnoticed. Your person began to sense the change in your energy. They could feel that something fundamental had shifted within you. You were no longer emotionally dependent on them, no longer waiting anxiously for their approval or affection. You were no longer checking your phone obsessively, hoping for a message that might never come. You had released your attachment to the outcome and found peace within yourself, regardless of what they chose to do. This shift created a profound sense of discomfort and regret within them. Suddenly, they could see you standing strong, radiating confidence, no longer willing to entertain their immature actions or childish behavior. You had grown beyond the patterns that once kept you stuck in cycles of hope and disappointment. This new version of yourself, this empowered and self-assured version, made them realize what they had lost. They began to understand that they had taken for granted someone truly special, someone who had loved them with a rare kind of authenticity and depth. Your person now feels that getting close to you again might be more challenging than ever before. They know instinctively that the same old tactics won't work anymore. The emotional distance they once created, the walls they built, the games they played, all of these things have now become the very barriers standing between you. They created this separation, and now they must face the consequences of their choices. Deep down in their heart, they understand that they hurt you. They hurt you not just through neglect, but through specific, inconsiderate actions that left lasting wounds. They blocked your messages when you reached out with love. They ignored your calls when you needed to hear their voice. They disappeared without explanation, leaving you in a state of confusion and rejection, questioning your own worth and wondering what you had done wrong to deserve such treatment. Those moments of silence and avoidance, those times when you felt completely abandoned and rejected, left deep marks on your heart. You questioned yourself. You wondered if you were too much or not enough. You replayed every conversation, searching for clues about what went wrong. And all the while, your person was simply avoiding their own feelings, running from their own fears, unwilling to face the vulnerability that real love requires. Now, your person carries the weight of that guilt. They can see with clarity how unfairly they treated someone who always approached them with kindness, patience, and compassion. They remember how softly you handled them even when they were cold or dismissive. They remember how you offered understanding when all they gave you in return was uncertainty. They remember how you tried so hard to hold the connection together even when they seemed ready to let it fall apart without a second thought. The realization of their behavior has started to hit them with tremendous force. They're beginning to see that their avoidance and emotional immaturity didn't just hurt you. It also sabotaged something truly meaningful, something rare and precious that they may never find again. They destroyed something beautiful through their own fear and inability to show up fully. Your person wants to make things right. There's a genuine desire within them to come forward and express everything they were unable to say before. There's a strong longing to ask for your forgiveness, not because they expect instant reconciliation or believe they can simply erase the past, but because they genuinely regret how they made you feel. They regret the pain they caused. They regret the opportunities they wasted. They regret not recognizing your value when they had the chance. They long for an opportunity to start over, to rebuild the connection from a place of honesty and mutual understanding. In their heart, they know that if this relationship is ever to have a future, it must be completely free from the guilt, misunderstandings, and blame that once poisoned it. They want a clean slate, a fresh beginning where both of you can communicate openly, trust one another again, and build something stronger than what existed before. They've come to a crucial realization that true love cannot exist without accountability. They're starting to see how important it is to take full responsibility for their actions, to acknowledge their mistakes without making excuses, and to commit to real change rather than just promising to do better. They understand now that you were never asking for too much. You are simply asking for the same effort, affection, and emotional presence that you were willing to give. You are asking for basic reciprocity, for someone to meet you halfway with openness and consistency rather than confusion or excuses. Meanwhile, through all of this pain and transformation, you've evolved into someone who knows your worth. You are no longer the person who chases, pleads, or settles for half-hearted love. You've learned through experience that the right person will meet you halfway with genuine effort. The right person will communicate openly. The right person will show up consistently, not just when it's convenient or easy, but especially when things are difficult. You've discovered a profound truth that self-love isn't selfish at all. Self-love is actually the foundation for every healthy connection you will ever have. It's the bedrock upon which all genuine relationships must be built. Without it, you become vulnerable to manipulation, mistreatment, and settling for less than you deserve. But with it, you become magnetic in ways you may not even fully realize. Your energy now radiates strength, confidence, and calm. You no longer seek validation from others because you've found peace within yourself. You no longer need anyone else to complete you or make you feel worthy because you understand that you are already whole. This realization has made you emotionally independent, and that independence is both deeply attractive and slightly intimidating to your person. They admire this new version of you tremendously. They can see that you've become someone who stands firmly in their truth, someone who won't compromise their peace for anyone. At the same time, they fear this transformation because they know that winning back your trust will take more than empty promises or temporary changes. It will require genuine, lasting transformation. It will require consistent effort, emotional maturity, and a willingness to be vulnerable in ways they've never been before. Whether you ultimately choose to reconcile with this person or continue moving forward on your own path, one thing is absolutely certain. You've already won. You've reclaimed your power, your peace, and your sense of self-worth. You've learned that love should never feel like chasing someone's attention or begging for scraps of affection. Real love should feel like mutual respect, emotional safety, and shared growth. No matter what happens next in this story, you stand stronger, wiser, and more aligned than ever before. Your love has been sharpened by the stone of challenges. It has been strengthened by the struggles of growth. Every obstacle you have faced has become a tool that carved your character into something more resilient and real. The journey hasn't always been easy. There were days when misunderstandings clouded your vision. There were moments when pride got in the way of connection. There were times when silence became louder than words, when the absence of communication spoke volumes about fear and avoidance. But through it all, something essential endured. The potential for real love remained, waiting for both people to rise to meet it with honesty and courage. You have emerged from this experience with gifts that will serve you for the rest of your life. You have learned discernment, the ability to distinguish between someone who truly values you and someone who only wants you when it's convenient. You have learned boundaries, the sacred art of protecting your energy and saying no to anything that diminishes your peace. You have learned patience, the understanding that the right things unfold in their own divine timing. Most importantly, you have learned that your worth is not determined by anyone else's inability to see it. Your value is inherent, unchangeable, and absolute. No one's neglect or rejection can diminish what you bring to this world. You are enough, exactly as you are, and the right person will recognize that truth without you having to convince them or prove yourself repeatedly. This is your moment of triumph, not because you won someone back, but because you won yourself back. You reclaimed the parts of yourself that you had given away too freely. You rebuilt the foundation of self-love that no one can ever take from you again. And from this place of wholeness and strength, you can now choose consciously what kind of love you will accept into your life and what kind you will lovingly decline.